Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today doing a Master Duel dice roll deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely funny deck to play on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, because the majority of the cards in this deck have dice roll effects, like Orgoth the Relentless, which is a really awesome boss monster. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description for a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Orgoth the Relentless. Orgoth the Relentless is an awesome boss monster that has the ability once per turn during your main phase, you can roll a 6-sided die 3 times. And this card gains attack and defense equal to the total result times 100 until the end of your opponent's turn. Then if 2 of the results are the same, apply the appropriate effect, and if 3 are the same, you get all of the effects. If a 1 or a 2, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects until the end of your opponent's turn. If it's a 3 or a 4, you get to draw 2 cards, and when it's a 5 or a 6, then this card can attack directly this turn, which is a crazy powerful effect. And fun fact, this card is actually based on a dungeon dice monster that was played by Duke Devlin, and this was actually his main boss monster in Dungeon Dice Monsters, which is super cool that it became the boss monster of the dice roll deck. We then play 3 copies of Dark Master Zork. Dark Master Zork is also a really awesome old school card that has an awesome actual dice roll effect. That it has the ability that during your turn, you can actually roll a 6-sided die. And if the result is 1 or 2, destroy all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. If the result is a 3, 4, or a 5, you destroy 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field. And the result is 6, you don't want it to be a 6, destroy all monsters on your side of the field. Which is a big drawback, but the odds are stacked in our favor, which is really cool for this card to be able to just instantly destroy all of our opponent's monsters so we can go in for game. We then play 3 copies of Dice Jar. Dice Jar is a hilarious card. This card can actually win you games pretty much on its own, which is really funny. Now, this card is actually a flip effect monster. That when this card is flipped face up, both players roll a 6-sided die. And the player with the lower result takes damage equal to their opponent's roll times 500. However, if the winner rolled a 6, the loser takes 6,000 damage, which is just crazy. This card is absolutely insane. Oh, and if both players roll the same thing, you roll again. This card is absolutely crazy, and it's just a really funny card to be able to resolve, especially with how many times you'll actually hit the 6, so that you'll do 6,000 burn damage to your opponent, which is just hilarious for this card to be able to do. We then play 3 copies of Diviner of the Herald. Diviner of the Herald is really good because it helps us go in for a copy of Baron de Fleur, because you can normally summon this card out to your side of the field and either send a copy of Trias to the graveyard so you can go in for Baron de Fleur, or send a copy of Herald of the Arclight to be able to search out a ritual spell or a ritual monster like your copy of Dark Master Zork or its ritual spell, so you can summon it out to your side of the field. This card is really helpful in the deck because it does help you get those cards in the graveyard, and if it is tributed, it actually lets you special summon out a copy of Boutin from the deck, which helps you go in for your copy of Baron de Fleur. We then play a single copy of Trias. Trias is really good to be able to send to the graveyard off our copy of Diviner, because this card can then tribute the copy of Diviner, and then Diviner will let us special summon out a copy of Boutin directly from the deck. And since we have a level 9 monster and a level 1 tuner on the field, we can go for Baron de Fleur to be able to protect our plays and give us a walking negate and a card that can pop cards on the field. We then play for the incantations. We're going to start off with 2 copies of our Talismandra. Talismandra is really good in the deck, and all of your incantations actually share a really cool common effect that you either reveal a ritual monster or ritual spell to special summon both this card from your hand and another incantation from the deck, depending on which one you're trying to summon. For example, your copy of Talismandra requires you to reveal specifically a ritual monster in your hand to special summon this card and another incantation from the deck. And if this card is special summoned from the deck, you get to add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. We then play 2 copies of Kandal. Kandal is really good and does the exact same thing, but it just searches out your copy of a ritual spell instead of a ritual monster, and this card works with ritual spells instead of ritual monsters. We then play a single copy of Bookstone. Bookstone's great because this card helps you recover cards. This card has a really cool ability that you can reveal a ritual spell in your hand to special summon both this card from your hand and an incantation from the deck, and if this card is special summoned from the deck, you get to actually add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. We then play a single copy of Pencil Plume. Pencil Plume is great as a 1-of in the build as well. This card helps you recover your ritual monsters from the graveyard, which is great. Then we play a really spicy tech card that I'm actually going to lay face down, and we're going to play Guess That Card. This card is a really awesome old school card that helps us summon out our copy of Dark Master Zork, which is just really cool about this card. So we're going to reveal this card in 3, 2, 1, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys, and definitely hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, because we're on the road to 100K subscribers. So let's go ahead and check out what our spicy tech card is. And this card is actually coming out of the very first set, The Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and it's going to be a single copy of Tri-Horn Dragon. You might be looking at this card and going, what? Tri-Horn Dragon? Well, there's actually a really good reason to play this card in the deck, because we have a card called Advanced Ritual Art. You can use Advanced Ritual Art in this deck to be able to send your copy of Tri-Horn Dragon from your deck to the graveyard to be able to summon out Dark Master Zork, which makes it a lot easier to be able to ritual summon it out to your side of the field, which is just really nice for this card to be able to do. Plus, it's an awesome old school card. We then play, for the last 3 monsters, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Maxi. Maxi is a really good 3-of in the deck, basically just to draw a card every time your opponent special summons, which is just absolutely crazy. This card is amazing in Master Duel, and it's crazy this card is still at 3 in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, because this card just is insane for drawing. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, guys, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Dice Dungeon. Dice Dungeon is really cool because this is actually the field that Dungeon Dice Monsters was played on, which is really cool. And this card's ability, when this card is activated, you can add 1 Dimension Dice from your deck to your hand. And at the start of the battle phase, you can activate this effect that each player rolls a 6-sided die and applies the result to all monsters that they control into the end of the turn. If you roll a 1, they lose 1,000 attack. If you roll a 2, they gain 1,000 attack. If you roll a 3, they lose 500 attack. If you roll a 4, they gain 500 attack. If you roll a 5, half their attack. And if you roll a 6, double their attack. This card is really funny to be able to play, and I absolutely love this card as a 3-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Dimension Dice. Dimension Dice is great, and actually how we summon out our copy of Orgoth to our side of the field unless we draw into it, which then we can just tribute summon it out by tributing off our copies of our incantation monsters. This card is really good, because if you control a card with a dice effect that requires a dice roll, then you can tribute a monster to be able to special summon 1 monster with the effect that requires a dice roll from your hand or deck, which is a really cool effect for this card to have, and I love that about this card. It just is such a cool card to be able to play in the deck, to just summon out our copy of Orgoth directly from the deck. We then play 2 copies of Advanced Ritual Art. Advanced Ritual Art is to be able to use with our copy of Tri-Horned Dragon to be able to send it from our deck to the graveyard to summon out Dark Master Zork. Speaking of Dark Master Zork, we're also playing 3 copies of Contract with the Dark Master, which is its original ritual spell that we use every so often to be able to ritual summon it out to our side of the field, but this card is really good as a 3-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. Pre-Preparation of Rites is really good as a 3-of in the build because this card helps us search out our copy of Dark Master Zork and its ritual spell, which is just really nice so we can summon it out to our side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Diced Dice. Diced Dice is definitely a 3-of in the deck. It's kind of like the Rhoda for the deck. It has the ability to, you roll a 6-sided dice, and if the result is a 1 or a 6, you get to add 1 card from your deck to your hand that requires a dice roll. And if you roll a number other than a 1 or a 6, you roll it again and apply the appropriate effect. If it's a 1 or a 6 the second time, return this card back to your hand, or if it's a 2, 3, 4, or 5, place this card on top of the deck. And you can only activate 1 of this card per turn, but it is a quick play spell, so you can activate this card during your opponent's turn, which is really nice. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, guys, we're going to start off with 2 copies of That 6. That 6 is the only trap that we play in the deck, but I feel like 2 is totally fine for this build, especially with all the other tech cards we're playing. But this card has the ability, each time a player rolls a die or dice, then you can choose 1 die result and apply the appropriate effect based on the result. If it's a 1, 3, or 5, the result is a 6, and if the result is a 2, 4, or 6, the result becomes a 1, which is a pretty cool effect, especially to combo with our copy of Diced Dice to make sure you're going to get that 1 or 6 to make this card go off, which is just really cool. But this card is amazing in the deck as a 2 of because it just helps out a lot. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight is a really good 2 of in the build to be able to use with our copy of Diviner of the Herald to be able to send this card to the graveyard to add a ritual monster or ritual spell from our deck to our hand. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur just in case we want to step into this card instead of sending the copy of Herald of Arclight from our deck to the, or from our extra deck to the graveyard so we can search ritual monsters and ritual spells. We can in turn send a copy of Trias to the graveyard and be able to summon out our copy of Bhutan and Trias off the copy of Diviner's ability, so that we can make Baron de Fleur, which is a walking negate and also pops cards on the field, which is really cool. We then also play a single copy of Elder Emptiness, just in case we need to pop a card on the field by the effect of our Diviner to send this card to the grave, because it is a fairy monster, which is really nice. We play a single copy of Dingirsu, because this card just sends a card to the graveyard when it's summoned to our side of the field, which is super cool. One copy of number 97, because it helps us summon out our copy of number 38, which is a spell negate, or a copy of number 100, which is super cool to summon to our side of the field, because this card actually comes out at 9,000 attack, which is going to help us OTK our opponent. We then play a single copy of AA Zeus, because AA Zeus belongs in just about any deck that can make XZ plays, and this card just boards wipes the field, which is super cool. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker is really nice in this deck as a 1 of, because it just pops multiple cards on the field, and it's really good to be able to make in the deck. Play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, one copy of Dynamundo, since we are playing ritual monsters, this card is really nice in the deck. One copy of Nightmare Phoenix to be able to pop spells and traps, IP Masquerena so we can make our copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn, and then finally a single copy of Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep is really good because we do ritual summon in the deck, and it lets us draw 2 and discard 2, which helps us dig into the deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I would enjoy it. This deck is super fun to play on Master Duel. If you guys have never played a dice roll deck on Master Duel, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's hilarious how many wins you're going to get and how many people you're going to frustrate with this deck, because it's just really funny to be able to play, especially summoning out cards like Orgoth the Relentless. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.